Hey story lovers. If you're into mystery, suspense, and unexpected twists, you're in the right place. Hit subscribe, relax, and let's dive into today's story. Sonia had always lived a simple life, one where every decision mattered. As a young woman struggling to make ends meet, she found herself at the doorstep of Sebastian Cole, a billionaire CEO, with nothing but her determination to convince him to give her a chance at his company. She had heard whispers about him, cold, calculating, and utterly ruthless. No one got close to Sebastian, and no one seemed to want to. Yet, fate had led her here. She knocked on the door of his office, a sprawling penthouse suite that overlooked the entire city. Inside, the man sat behind his massive desk, his sharp gaze assessing her the moment she walked in. He looked every bit the part of a man who had it all: wealth, power, and control. "Miss Sonia, I'm listening," he said, his voice deep and unyielding. "I need a job," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I'm not asking for much, just a chance to prove myself." Sebastian stared at her for a moment, his expression unreadable. Then, he leaned forward and slid a folder across the desk towards her. "This is the deal," he said. "You'll work for me, in a capacity that I'll choose, and in exchange, you'll get everything you've ever wanted. Fame, fortune, and the career you dream about. But you'll have to follow my rules. Every single one of them." Sonia's heart raced. This was her moment, her chance to change everything. But there was a catch, and she knew it. "What's the catch?" she asked, already dreading the answer. Sebastian smiled coldly. "You will obey without question. And you will leave behind any personal life you had. That includes no relationships, no distractions. It's a deal that changes everything." The terms were harsh, but Sonia knew this was the price of success. She was desperate. She didn't have much choice. "I accept," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Little did she know, this decision would be the beginning of a journey that would change her life forever. The days that followed were a whirlwind. Sonia threw herself into her work, determined to prove herself worthy of the deal she had struck with Sebastian. But despite her efforts, something in the air between them shifted. The way he looked at her, the subtle touches, the long, lingering glances, each one made her uneasy, yet oddly intrigued. She couldn't deny the pull she felt toward him, even though she tried to remain professional. One evening, after a late meeting, Sebastian asked her to join him for a drink. She hesitated but agreed. They sat at a private bar in his penthouse, the city lights twinkling below them. The conversation was casual at first, but as the night wore on, the tension between them grew palpable. "Tell me, Sonia," Sebastian's voice was low, almost a growl, "what would you do if I told you that I could give you everything you've ever wanted? Power, money, and me." Her breath hitched. His words were dangerous, but his gaze was even more so. He wasn't just talking about the deal anymore. Before she could respond, he leaned in, his lips brushing against her ear, sending a shiver down her spine. She pulled away, but he caught her wrist, his grip firm. "I don't want a game, Sebastian," she whispered, her heart racing. "I want to be respected." He smirked. "Respect is earned, Sonia. But trust me, you'll learn to like the game. The question is, will you play it?" In a moment of weakness, fueled by the alcohol and the magnetic pull between them, Sonia let her guard down. Their lips met in a fiery kiss, desperate and urgent. One night that changed everything. The morning after the night that blurred all lines, Sonia woke up to find herself alone in Sebastian's bed, the coldness of reality crashing over her. What had she done? She had crossed a line she hadn't meant to. Sebastian was gone, leaving behind only a note. "We both knew this was inevitable. Don't act like you didn't enjoy it." His words stung, and she couldn't shake the feeling of being used. But despite the anger that burned within her, there was a deeper, unspoken connection that lingered, something she couldn't explain. The days that followed were tense. Sonia threw herself into her work even harder, trying to push away the thoughts of that night. But Sebastian's presence seemed to haunt her everywhere she went. He watched her with an intensity that made her uncomfortable yet intrigued. The power dynamics between them were becoming increasingly complex. He called her into his office one afternoon. She knew it wasn't for business. "Sonia," he said, his tone colder than before. "You've crossed a line. You think you can handle this? You think you can handle me?" She looked at him, defiant but unsure. "I didn't ask for this. You made it happen." He leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "You wanted success, didn't you? You wanted to play with fire. Now you're going to have to live with the consequences." The power struggle between them was palpable. Sebastian controlled everything, from her career to her emotions. He was the master of the game, and she was just another pawn. But Sonia wasn't going to stay in the background. She had her own plans, her own ambitions. She wasn't going to let him dictate her every move. But Sebastian wasn't so easily swayed. He had always been in control, and he wasn't about to let anyone, especially her, steal that control away from him. The battle for dominance between them had just begun. As the days passed, the weight of Sebastian's secrets began to unravel. Sonia discovered the truth about him. He wasn't just the ruthless businessman everyone thought him to be. There were parts of him, hidden deep beneath the surface, that no one knew about. Parts of him that he never allowed anyone to see. One evening, while they were working late, Sonia stumbled upon a set of documents that revealed Sebastian's darkest secret. His empire was built on lies. The very foundation of his success was built on deception. He had manipulated people, destroyed careers, and even ruined lives to get where he was. Sonia confronted him, her voice shaking with a mixture of anger and betrayal. "How could you do this, Sebastian? You've built everything on lies. On other people's pain." Sebastian's eyes hardened, but there was a flicker of regret in them. "You don't understand, Sonia. This world isn't kind. You do what you have to do to survive. I did what I had to do." But Sonia couldn't accept that. She had spent her entire life fighting for what was right, and now she found herself entangled in a web of lies. Her disillusionment was complete. Sebastian's empire was crumbling, and so was the fragile trust between them. The secret he had kept hidden for so long was now out, and there was no going back. Sonia stood at a crossroads. The path she had chosen had led her into a world of manipulation, deceit, and betrayal. She had fallen for Sebastian's charm, his power, and his promises. But now, after everything that had happened, she wasn't sure if she could continue down that path. Sebastian had tried to manipulate her, control her, and yet, deep down, she knew she couldn't give him the satisfaction of breaking her. "I won't be your pawn anymore, Sebastian," she said, her voice steady but filled with finality. "I'm done." Sebastian stood in silence, his expression a mixture of shock and frustration. "You think you can walk away from this? You think you can walk away from me?" "I'm not walking away from you," she said, her voice soft but firm. "I'm walking away from the lies. From the games. From everything you stand for." Sonia turned her back to him, her heart heavy with the weight of the decision she had made. She had found her strength, her independence. She knew that the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but it was hers to walk. As she left the building, the world outside seemed to hold a new promise. She had made her choice. And for the first time in her life, she was in control.